There was nothing spectacular about me. I was just an ordinary child in an ordinary family. We are a ordinary Christian family. And my father, something characteristic about him is he's a very just man and also a very generous man. And my mother, a very pious, God-oriented, God-fearing lady.
This young girl wanted only one thing in her life, and that was to become a nun.
I never thought that I should go for higher studies, that I should do something. If anybody asked me, I could only say that I want to be a nun.
She was determined that she should pursue her heart's desire.
I used to read a lot of books from our parish library, and that books gave me certain ideas about what is to be a nun. And then certain times, my father used to see me reading books. He has got a kind of ideas about every child. There are 8 of us. For me, he wanted me to be a doctor. Everybody mentioned in the family about me is that I was very violently expressing myself sometimes. And also, I had my own will, and I won't give in to people easily. Perhaps I was trying to find a place for myself within this big family structure.
It was that indomitable will that one could see in her journey throughout.
After my primary education, I left my home at the age of 15 to become a nun.
The bell tolled as she entered the portal of St. Teresa's. She says that was a bell that welcomed her and a sign that was sent by her Lord and Master.
God in His own way made me a doctor, and I had the opportunity to tell my father, though I did not become a doctor according to your wish, I am now a doctor with a PhD. When I was doing my research, I wanted a topic to begin with. I was reading Doris Lessing those days. I felt I will take her for my study. And the topic that I have taken is Marxism in Doris Lessing. It was a strange topic for a nun.
She was so determined, perseverant in completing her study, and I think to a certain extent that made her contribute more in addressing gender inequalities.
I always think, others allowed me to express myself. I should allow the others also coming to me to express themselves. They should have the freedom to say what they feel. When I became the main warden in the hostel, what I felt is I should do something to understand these students. For me, everybody has got a mind of their own. Sometimes I see somebody sitting there gloomy. I go to them, call them either to my side or make them sit. We'll stop casually for some time. Whatever is troubling you, just forget about it. You will be all right. So many of the students used to tell me that word that you said, that everything will be all right, has encouraged me to come out of it. I have a very strong sense of faith because I feel that God has a plan for me and for everyone who comes into the purview of my life.
She was mainly responsible for introducing the Navadi scholarship, which actually was a big blessing for many students from economically challenged sections.
See, when I find students or parents struggling for education of their children, I arrange sponsorship for them. Because of the lack of money, nobody should be denied of education. And I have even written letters to people, ask them to help these children complete their studies.
She makes sure that the children who come to St. Teresa's gets equal opportunities in almost all spheres of their activities.
I think I can spot talents in students. There are a couple of students whom I have changed the course of their future.
During my PG final year youth festival, that's my last youth festival, I had to face a very crucial situation. I could win Kalathilakan title only if I secure first place for the last event. I still remember what sister spoke to me during that toughest time. Sister said, "Oh, the whole college is with you. I'm sure that you'll come back in flying colors." And those words were a real encouragement for me, and I could secure first place for the event as well as Kalathilakan title.
The vocation that she has chosen has given her a lot of freedom and has positioned her in such a manner that she is able to contribute more to humanity, especially women at large.
As a student and as a young teacher, I used to go to the colonies to visit them. And I also used to visit the prison. Then I found some 20-25 young women there. They're all distorted humanity, that's what I would say. I found that some of them want to come out of that way of life. And from that place where these children were, 4 or 5 of the girls came with me. Then I put them into different places as workers and gave them kind of training and placed them different places. And after I left the place, I had a call from this warden. She asked me whether I would take 2 children. Their mother is in the jail, and when the police caught that lady because of a murder, these 2 children were there. So I took the responsibility of bringing them up. And this lady she's stark mad. But I had a sense that the children should not be kept here because this lady will come out anytime.
Suddenly from somewhere, there was this mad woman who was standing in front of us.
She was abusing me right and left, and she was throwing mud on me.
And she was asking for her children.
I was determined not to give the children because I know if I give the children back, they will be in the street.
But sister said, don't be angry. Come with me to the convent, and once you have food, you will be fine.
I wrote and gave the address and said, your children are here. You can go, take them and go. She looked at the paper for some time and then abused me with one unbearable word she said, and then she tore the paper and she never came back. The children grew up living comfortably.
And there were cases of abuses that we face on a day-to-day basis. But sister had some 7th sense to know about the fire that was eating them alive. These children who were the so-called victims were provided all kinds of emotional support. I still remember that one day she called me to the office and said, we need to start a spoken English course for the LGBT.
And I felt that is it is a need of the hour. They are trying to express themselves. They are trying to find a niche for themselves in the society. And as an institution that is supporting the education of women and also the empowerment of women, I felt it is the duty bound to allow them to entry into this campus. I felt that being here, there are so many things I can. Standing here, keeping the foot here, I will be able to mobilize a lot of people to help these people. A woman, down through centuries, women have been suffering. Maybe it's due to a kind of false notion. She's physically weak. I don't think a woman is physically weak. Mentally strong, spiritually strong, physically also strong. Otherwise, she will not stand the pain of bearing a child. They are not inferior to anybody.
Sister Vinita is a person who understood those small voices which were never heard.
My writer, Doris Lessing, says, as long as a man does not change his mind, a lady will always be a slave. He has to change. This institution is started by servant of God, Mother Teresa of St. Rose of Lima. She has a very strong sense of the power of women. And she herself was a very empowered woman. Otherwise, it would not have been possible for her to imagine this type of a institution or visualize this type of an institution. What she said is women had to be educated. And that's why in 1887, we started the school here. It is a school for women. And particularly, I feel proud that I am in this institution, this congregation, where women are given opportunity to develop their full potential.
Many of our superiors at an early stage felt that she voiced dissent. She was a rebel. But she said, I'm not a rebel. I'm like my Savior, Jesus Christ, who was against hierarchy, who believed in equality.
Personally speaking, I find that the garb that I'm wearing, the vows that I've taken, liberates me. Habit gives me a kind of confidence to reach out to the people. And also they feel quite confident to confide in me. That is a freedom I feel internally. One particular person came and said, we feel you are not like the traditionally confined nun. Then I said, what is a traditionally confined nun? This habit is not a kind of hurdle for me. Keeping all the rules of my institution, my vows, I can be an inspiration. I can be a corrective force. And that's what I'm doing in this campus.
Her books and her writings signify the fact that within the confines of a vocation, there is space to discover one's freedom, one's voice that could be heard.
The spirit of freedom and empowerment is not given here in the curriculum. It is in the air. Every student who comes in here imbibes that air and they experience an inner freedom, which is the spirit of calm. When I look at my life, I find it's a kind of a long journey from a girl from a remote village and then passing through these long years of life. I have reached in this state, whatever you call it, and coming from a patriarchal society, living through a patriarchal society, living much more a stricter life in the religious life, abiding within the structures of the institution with its discipline, with its vows, with the dress, with the thinking pattern, everything I have reached now here. When I think back, perhaps what has helped me is an open reading and also a freedom to express whatever thinking that was going on in my mind. The restrictions can be transformed into liberating. Unless you want to be restricted, nobody can restrict you. Where people find hurdles, restrictions, I find freedom. Nothing can in this world become a hurdle for you to be liberated.